We're moving on now to our next presentation. We're going to hear from Twyla Henry of Grouse Malting and Roasting Company from Nunn, Colorado. And Grouse Malting and Roasting is a malting company focusing on organic, gluten-free grains for brewing and baking. And if you've been following the trends of celiac disease, which I see that on your board right now, you'll know that this is a very hot topic. We'll turn it over to you, Twyla. Thank you. Give a round of applause.
Did you know celiac disease, which is treatable only by completely removing gluten from the diet, affects at least 3 million, or about 1 in 100 Americans? Gluten is a protein found in certain grains like wheat, rye, and barley. While the symptoms of celiac disease were first described by doctors back in the 1890s, only recently has the diagnosis and the treatment of this disease been better understood. If you have celiac disease, you should not eat foods like traditional breads, baked goods, and a whole host of other products, because these products contain gluten, which will wreak havoc on your body, especially your digestive tract, and negatively impact your quality of life. But celiac disease is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to people eating gluten-free diets. According to the Gluten-Free Institute, 25 million, or about 1 in 7 Americans, have a sensitivity or an intolerance to gluten and could benefit from removing gluten from their diet. And guess what? 99% of these cases are undiagnosed today. Evidence also suggests that eating a gluten-free diet can help treat medical conditions like diabetes, arthritis, and irritable bowel syndrome. Eating gluten-free is not a fad. It's a reality and a necessity for millions and millions and millions of Americans. Because of this, it's not surprising to hear that the gluten-free food and beverage market is booming. In 2010, the gluten-free beverage and food market had a revenue of $2.5 billion. And market researchers at that time predicted that it would take until 2015 for this market to reach $5 billion. Well, guess what? The very next year, in 2011, this market had a revenue of over $6 billion. That is an over 200% growth in 1 year. And based on the number of people who need gluten-free food options, this industry is still in its infancy today. It really is. Eating gluten-free is an active decision. I am gluten-free, and I founded a company to help others on this journey. The goal of Grouse Malting and Roasting Company is to bridge the gap and to produce high-quality end products, of gluten-free organic malt. Malt is an ingredient that can be used in a whole host of food products. We'll dive into the specifics of malting in just a moment, but for now it is crucial to note that when making gluten-free versions of all of these products, we have to start with gluten-free ingredients. And in our case, that is grain. There are several gluten-free grains. We are focusing on millet for a key reason, and that is because Colorado produces a lot of millet. In fact, Colorado produces 68% of the nation's entire millet crop, equating to about 250,000 acres. Until recently, millet has rarely been utilized by the food and the beverage industry, but Grouse supports local farmers and will be offering a premium for this crop because we are using it for human consumption. Grouse bridges the gap between local farmers growing these grains and other farmers in other industries utilizing these grains in creative and innovative ways to produce high-quality end products. The location we've chosen for this startup is a strategic one. Not only are we located in the heart of our inventory source, we're also in the Enterprise Zone, which is a program developed to help put money back into rural areas. and also helps businesses provide jobs, especially new jobs related to agriculture. Grouse is located just up the road in Nunn, Colorado, on a farm where millet is grown. In addition to being gluten-free, our product is also organic. Did you know that the organic food and beverage market experienced an almost 10% growth from 2010 to 2011, equating to $31.5 billion worth of sales? This market is expected to grow exponentially, and it has much room to, because it is currently only 4% of the overall food and beverage market. You might be excited to hear that Colorado has been identified as an emerging powerhouse in the organic market, and this is because Colorado farmers, ranchers, and food producers account for approximately 10% of the overall U.S. sales in organic products. Our main supplier is one of the nation's largest producers of certified organic malt. So let's step back for a moment and talk about the reason I am standing here before you today, and that is one word: malt. Well, what is malt? What is malting? Malting is essentially the sprouting or the controlled germination of a seed kernel. This is the internal picture. This is the internal structure of a seed. And during the malting process, we're developing inherent enzymes which break down complex starches into sugars. We then dry down the grain so that it is shelf stable. When we're malting, the seed kernel smells sweet. It smells alive. It smells inviting. Malting truly is an amazingly beautiful, natural process. And as I've mentioned, malt is used in a whole host of food products because it offers beneficial characteristics, unique flavor profiles, and it's considered a natural sweetener. So here is our product. We will be selling gluten-free organic malt. Our price point is $2.50 a pound for pale and $3 a pound for specialty malt. The closest price comparison we have to something already on the market is organic toasted buckwheat, which sells for $3.40 a pound. But our product is different from this because it has gone through that value-added process of malting. Using our product as an ingredient for gluten-free beer production is a natural one. First off, malt is the primary ingredient in beer. And secondly, Northern Colorado has been identified as a mecca of microbrewing. And Colorado has consistently ranked third in the nation states with active breweries. So this gives us easy access to customers, and we already have a handful of letters of intent from local breweries. We will use this well-defined brewing market as a stronghold, acting as a springboard, allowing us to pursue selling our products to other industries. Our gluten-free organic malt is truly, truly unique. It can be used as an ingredient from baby food to beer to baked goods, helping celiacs and gluten-free customers ages 1 to 100. We will engage our customers as partners, and we're working closely with them to develop artisan malts that specifically meet their needs. We'll strengthen our current lines of communication with these customers and utilize social media marketing firms such as GrowthWeaver to target potential new customers. Currently, there is no other company in the United States that makes gluten-free malts. Grouse is poised to be first to the market, and we have conquered several barriers, including, number 1, we have a local source of ingredients that can sustain our growth. 2, we have modified malting and roasting equipment. And 3, we have a designated gluten-free facility. I didn't just wake up a few months ago and decide to start this company. I did have the idea over 4 years ago. I've taken several steps to get Grouse Malting and Roasting Company where it is today. Including, I graduated from Colorado State University with a master's degree in food science and food safety, focusing on malting and brewing science. I also trained at the Canadian Malting Barley Technical Center in Winnipeg, and I interned at Rebel Malting Company in Reno, Nevada. For business development, we recently graduated from CSU's NEVA program. I also experimented malting and roasting and brewing gluten-free grains with much success. At this point, I decided that there's no better time to start this company than right now. So a few months ago, I took out a $30,000 personal loan and started purchasing equipment. Although Grouse has yet to make a sale, we are actively engaged in business, product, and product research development. We are seeking additional funding to help finance new equipment purchases and new product development. I am excited about the opportunity to give back to our community by donating 1% of our profits to Northern Colorado's first Farm to Food Investment Clubs, a nonprofit organization that helps agricultural-based startup companies be successful. This company, in year one, we anticipate selling 60,000 pounds of gluten-free organic malt, equating to a revenue of $150,000 with a 17% net profit. In year two, we'll increase our production by about 30%. Based on the growth of the organic and the gluten-free markets and the impact that our product can make on the local, national, and potentially international markets, our company's growth will be stable and rapid. In year three, we anticipate increasing our production by 400% because we'll go from a 1-ton system to a 5-ton system, or potentially an even larger capacity. I would like to thank the University of Northern Colorado, the Monfort College of Business, and all of the sponsors for this incredible opportunity. I'd also like to thank the community of Nunn and the farmers in Weld County, as well as all the business folk and my family and friends who have supported this malting venture. Thank you, Dad, for flying in here today. Thank you. And thank you, judges, for your consideration. My name is Twyla Henley. I represent Grouse Malting and Roasting Company. Thank you very much.
And you did a great job. Twyla, thank you. Awesome. Very good. Where's Dad? Dad, stand up so we can. Thank you, Dad. That's good. All right, judges. We have time for at least one question from each of you. I don't know who wants to begin now, but go for it.
For me, it's all about the beer. So I want to know, basically, I've seen some beers that say they're gluten-free. Mm-hmm. So what are they currently doing? Who's your competitor in terms of getting into the beer market? I think you're right. It's a great target market locally, great focus, a lot of, I'll give you the time. So go ahead.
Sure. When we're talking about gluten-free, right now gluten-free is a very heated debate. If you label something gluten-free in order to be compliant with the FDA's regulations right now, it has to be made with 100% gluten-free ingredients, and not all gluten-free beers are. But those gluten-free beers that are made with gluten-free ingredients are typically subpar. There's one beer that's made in Belgium, Greens, maybe some of you are familiar with that one, but it is made with malted grains. And malt is really what makes a high quality beer. These other gluten-free beers are made with sorghum and rice extracts, which really don't give you the flavor profile that you want in high quality beers. Also, it's really hard to get, say, a milk stout, right? That dark color with an extract. And so we are using a modified coffee roaster to really provide that flavor and that color into grains so that gluten-free breweries or any brewery or brewer who wants to make a gluten-free beer can make a high-quality beer.
Great. Next question.
So the production of the gluten, say that 5 times in a row, gluten-free malt is, so the production facility is right there at the farm, mm-hmm. where the millet's grown. How much of it is what your provider is producing versus what you do? And are you the secret sauce? In other words, is this a real standard technology for producing the malt from millet, and then you're the last 10% value add, or I'm trying to understand the complexity of the production and how you begin to ramp up the company. Are you going to be able to scale it?
Okay. Well, first of all, our supplier has access to a lot of millet, so we're just really the tip of the iceberg right now, at least, for what they can provide. But the malting process is it's behind this black sheet. Even brewers don't really have a good idea of what it takes to properly malt a grain. And so the equipment that we've designed, and again, we've done this, we started to purchase this equipment in November, and it's ready to go. We just finished our pilot batch. And because we've reached out to certain industry experts, a gentleman actually in Fort Collins who has so much experience malting on a very large scale, I have a lot of faith that we'll be able to scale up our equipment in no time to be able to keep up with the demands that the market is definitely going to have for us.
Very good. Yes.
So my question's around the sales side of it, as well as the logistics of delivery.
Okay.
As I read through it, kind of could use a little more depth in it, and if you could describe to us how you plan to go out and really scale this to that 3-year number, and then how you actually plan to deliver it from that point.
Okay. Well, in terms of scaling, I would say the biggest obstacle and project that we have in front of us is to move from a 1-ton system to a 5-ton system. But again, we have so many options of how we would do that I don't think that will be an issue. In terms of the logistics and the shipping, our plan right now is that all of our malt will be FOB none, and so we will work our hardest with all of our with all of our customers to get our product shipped to them as cheaply and as best as we possibly can. What other questions do you have about the scaling?
Really
and
on
the
the sales side.
Okay.
So the demand, and you have the logistics, and you're working hard with them.
Sure.
But how do you sell this stuff?
Well, honestly, we have our letters of intent that we have from local breweries. We almost have half of our first year's product sold to local breweries, let alone there's a startup brewery in Pennsylvania and another startup gluten-free brewery in Denver that we don't have letters of intent from. So honestly, our biggest obstacle is going to keep up with the demand that we do have in year one, and then scale up our company to meet the demand that we have and the sales that we know we're gonna. It's going to be hard to say yes, I can get gluten-free malt to you and you and you and you, because as you can see, there is a large demand for our product.
Twyla, just a little quick follow-up on. Did I break the rules?
No, you have plenty of time. Go ahead.
Okay. People, staffing. I mean, it looks to me like you're going to work yourself to death. What's your plan to fund and add people? How are you going to do that? Because you're going to need some help.
We are going to need some help. Well, in year 3, as you can see, by the time we get to that 400% increase, our staff has grown exponentially. We have 3 full-time. We'll have 3 full-time employees by then, and another part-time employee. Yes, it is the malting process right now, because we don't have a lot of automation in place. It takes a lot of manpower. I'm a hard worker and I don't mind doing that, but once we get the automation in place, it's really going to cut down on the amount of hours, manpower that we need. I'll be able to focus my time on other important things, like reaching out to our customers, making sure that what we are giving them is meeting their needs specifically, and then also with our new product development, because there was a lot of recipe tweaks that we can do to make crystal malt and all these other cool flavors that make really amazing, well-defined, really in-depth beers that the gluten-free market needs right now.
Great. We're going to open it up for questions in the audience. If you have a question, just raise your hand really high, and I'll get to you here in just a minute, and I'll come back here. But Twyla, as I'm walking back, and I haven't had the benefit of seeing your business plan, but in all total, how much money do you need to ramp this thing up in year 1?
In year 1, we really need about $26,000 for more equipment, for that automation, for some facility improvements. It's really in year 2, the end of year 2, whenever we start scaling up to that 5-ton system, that we're going to need more funding. That will be about a $200,000 investment in order to get to that 5-ton
Got it. So year one is sort of proof of concept, get out there, get the market hungry
Exactly.
for it, and then move forward. Okay, good.
You can use mine.
No, we just had to turn it on, sorry. Thank you. It'll turn.
Okay, so I'm a local home brewer, and I have friends who are on gluten-free diets. Have you explored the home brewery market in northern Colorado and products on the shelves there?
Absolutely. And really that's one of the reasons why I started off on this venture myself, because I was at CSU and in the malting and the brewing science course and wanted to make gluten-free home brews, and it was so hard. The only options that we had were rice extracts, sorghum extracts, and so I've already gotten so many calls from home brewers that want to get our product. We might look into going into the homebrew supply stores, but right now, if you get onto our website, grouseco.com, we'll be more than happy to hook you up with and send you some gluten-free malt samples, or you can come to the farm and visit us, check out the equipment.
And then we'll come over for the beer. Yeah, well, I like that. Any other questions? Raise your hand, I'll come over here. Give us a rundown of the samples of products that you've got there.
Absolutely. Well, one of the things I was most surprised to see was tea, barley malt, traditional malt, is the first ingredient on this list. Malt is also in breads, cooked cereals, candy, frozen foods, biscotti, crackers, frozen waffles. It's in a lot of frozen foods. It adds a stability. And
if you add this, and I'm sorry, I'm curious. Yeah, that's why I'm a reporter. Gosh darn it. Bread alone, if you put only your malt in the bread, that makes it completely gluten-free then?
No.
Okay.
You have to remove, in bread, there's wheat,
There's
obviously.
wheat, right. Okay.
But one thing that really isn't in the gluten-free market, there's not a whole lot of sprouted grains, but if you see in the conventional market, there's a lot of sprouted products, because we're seeing that sprouted grains provide really beneficial characteristics to the body. It's not as hard for the body to break down.
Got it.
Some people consider it being more like digesting a vegetable versus digesting a grain.
Okay.
So,
thank you.
I hope I explained that.
Hi, first of all, thank you. I have celiac disease, so I'm very interested in what you're doing. Are there other grains besides millet that you can malt that could be used in brewing? And then also, what is the crop cycle of millet like in Colorado? Are you taking 2 crops a year off the fields, or just one? Or
No, it's just one. I'll start with that question. It's just one harvest a year. In terms of other gluten-free grains, there are several. Quinoa, corn, oats are gluten-free, buckwheat, wild rice. There's a lot of gluten-free options, and to be honest, we will potentially experiment malting with these grains, because if you look on the back of a gluten-free bread, you see that the way that they're able to get the texture that a normal bread would have, it's because we're combining all of these different gluten-free grains. And so I know that gluten-free breweries or brewers will want to experiment with different grains, not just our millet. So that's definitely in the radar.
Good. Another question back here, yes.
So I was wondering, when you're using the gluten-free grains, does that affect or substantially affect the outcome of the beer, like the flavor and stuff, or?
No, and especially with malt, which is the most experience I have with brewing. In a taste test, in a blind taste test, people were not able to tell the difference between our product and others. That being said, there's some differences in the brewing process that need to take place in order to get the extract potential and the extract yield that you'd want. So it does take some tweaks, but the end product is honestly almost identical.
Time for another couple questions, if anyone has one. And I just want clarification on the bottom picture. Is that the black curtain you were talking in the photograph up on the board?
This?
Yes.
Oh, can you not see this?
I can't without my
Back
glasses.
there? No, this is our 1-ton malting vessel.
Oh, got it. Okay.
And then it also has our crystal malting vessel right here. It's a little bit smaller.
And given this technology, what kind of protections do you have on the process that you're
In terms
proposing?
of patents on the grain right now, we don't have a patent. We are looking into getting a patent on our process. From my understanding, that's in the food and beverage industry. It's more about the process patent. we are looking at trademarking some of our names, especially for our specialty malts. The good thing about malting is, again, no one really knows about it unless you go out and buy Malts and Malting, a $200 or more book by Briggs. There's only certain books that really explain about malting. And the other thing is, there is very, very, very little done. Only in Africa do tribal people malt millet. So we're really at the forefront, and I've done a lot of research and experiments to figure out what's the right temperature. In this malting process, it's not like brewing. It doesn't take just a few hours. This malting process is involved. It's very complex. It takes 5 to 6 days, almost up to a week, to make one batch of malt. So it's a time commitment, and not a whole lot of people are willing to undertake that right now.
All right, good.
Hi, I was just wondering, it's somewhat of an indirect question. You said that 99% of these cases are undiagnosed. What is the National Gluten-Free Society doing, as well as your company, to increase awareness of this gluten-free, movement, because I think that's directly correlated with your market?
Absolutely. Well, there are a few things. One, on the medical side, for the medical community, they're improving the testing. Now there are 3, I believe. There might be another one. 3 ways, blood tests, to identify if you have celiac disease. But from my understanding, that only goes so far. There are so many other people that don't necessarily have celiac disease that really can benefit from removing from their gluten from their diet. I don't have celiac disease. I didn't come up positive for that test, but I can tell you that when I don't eat gluten, I feel so much better. I have more energy. And so that's another thing, just as we talk about it to our friends and to our family, it just might be something you might want to try. And what's great about right now versus 10 years ago, if you go to a restaurant and say, hey, do you have gluten-free bread or gluten-free pizza dough? They do, most likely. People they're accommodating, and they're realizing that, your sister has celiac disease or gluten intolerance, and so your whole family wants to go out and enjoy a meal. You know what? They're going to pick a restaurant that has a gluten-free option.
We have time for one more question, if there is one. I'll come up here. Yes.
Hi, my name is Jean. I saw multiple tables outside here, and I guess these are all the people that will be competing today. They all looked interesting, yours especially. Could you please tell me and the judges why this award should go in your direction, as opposed to one of the awards should go in your direction, as opposed to some of your competitors out there?
Sure. I think that's based on 3 important factors. Number 1, our company has its roots in the soil. We are related to agriculture. We're on the farm where our millet is grown. Number 2, we can impact a lot of people here. As I've mentioned, almost 25 million consumers potentially have an intolerance or a sensitivity to gluten and could benefit from removing gluten from their diet. So we have our customers are vast. And the other thing is that this is timely. As I mentioned, there's not another company out there in the United States that's doing what we're doing. And so if we act now, and that's what we're trying to do, I think it'll work out wonderfully.
And the name of the company is Grouse, Malting, and Roasting.
And my name is Twyla Henley.
Twyla, thank you very much. Great job. In just about 10 minutes or so, we're going to hear from our second student presentation from the Larimer County Workforce Center. Thank you. Come on back for that. And Twyla, thank you again, too. We'll see you in just a few minutes.